Hey everybody, thanks for joining us this week. We're back on the Penobscot River in Maine, near Old Town, Maine, and we're fishing for smallmouth bass. And in this episode, we start out in the late evening fishing with a topwater bait called a Whopper Plopper. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that later, but they were hitting it really good on this evening. We started yesterday morning, had a really good morning, so we decided to come out and evening fish today with some topwaters. I'm throwing a hard bait called a Whopper Plopper. We'll tell you a little bit more about it in a minute. And Bob's throwing a soft plastic topwater called a horny toad. They both churn up the top of the water, and these smallmouth really like it. I just lost a pretty nice one. He just came off. But hopefully we'll get a few more here real quick. So this first one I caught on the Whopper Plopper. He's not a giant, but man, they're pretty, and he came up and ate it. So they're just kind of out here in the open where I'm throwing this topwater, and they're out here chasing probably in the late evening. And we're gonna see if we can catch a few more out here. I'm gonna try to let him not get a hook in my hand if I can. That's the only disadvantage to these with the treble hooks. What we did is we fished down a bank and couldn't really get bit on the bank. And we're back here behind the shallow shoal, and we've had several hits. They're having a hard time staying hooked up, but maybe this one will stay hooked up and we can see him. Maybe he'll cut up for us a little bit right there. They don't like to jump like a largemouth does. But that's a pretty, about a pound and a quarter Penobscot River smallmouth. I'm gonna try to take him off without getting a hook in my hand. That's a nice little smallmouth. I can't tell.
That's a whacking smallie.
Golly, he felt just like a pike when he hit. He's whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, he's not a big one, but let's see what, he finally hit the little topwater. Throw it long enough and try to make him hit it. Come here, dude. That's about a pound one, but I am not complaining. It's been a long time since I've been bit. Open that mouth. That's the other good part about these trebles, is they can sometimes catch them on the outside if they just swipe at it. But we're gonna let him get bigger, try to catch a few more. The bait that we were using this evening is it's a hard plastic bait called a Whopper Plopper, but basically it's a hard bait that works just like a buzz bait. The tail of it spins 360 degrees, and you throw it out, and you can work it a number of ways. A lot of people fish them just reeling them straight in like a buzz bait. We didn't really have any luck up there catching them that way. Most of the time it was a jerk and stop, a stop and go kind of retrieve that we caught them on. This happens to be the smallest one. They make them in 3 sizes. We caught them on the smallest one and on the largest one, and they make an in-between size one also. But this was the exact bait I was catching them on. It's kind of a frog pattern, a lot of frogs up there. But that's what a Whopper Plopper is. We throw it typically on casting tackle, 7-foot medium casting rod, and I like to use monofilament line, 15 or 18-pound line, and that thicker line keeps that bait up on top. You can also throw them on spinning tackle. That's no problem. You can cast them a long way, but that light line, sometimes they don't work quite as good. You can throw them either way, but I prefer casting tackle, and that's a Whopper Plopper. He's right where he's supposed to be, just sitting as big as he's supposed to be. Unless he's bigger than I think he is. Ooh,
not
nope.
bad.
But I am not complaining. We're finally getting a few. I don't think he was coming off, was he? Looks like a salmon or something, all in there sideways. So Bob, Maine is a long way from Georgia. And I know the fishing's awesome up here. We have a great time every time we come, but how did you originally get connected up here?
We had a guy that came down to our church in Columbus at the time. It was Morningside Baptist, and his name's Bill Shorey, and he was from here.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
He was born and raised, grew up here, and he talked about this river to us, and he knew I and several other guys there found out we loved to fish and hunt, and he talked about how great the smallmouth bass fishing was up here, and we needed to come. So several of us did. We came up here with him one summer, and it was just incredible, the fishing. And so we came up. We came back 3 or 4 years in a row with Bill, and then so happened that there was a guy that had a cabin, or what they call them, camps up here, 2 down from Bill, that wanted to sell. So I talked to the guy, and we ended up buying it, and so that's why I'm coming so far away from Columbus, Georgia to Maine to fish. So.
And Bob and I have been good friends for a long time. He's on the board of directors for our ministry, and he just blesses us and letting us come up here every summer, and he's right. It's some of the best smallmouth fishing in the world. If you ever have a chance to come to the Penobscot River, we're near Greenbush, Maine is where we are, near Old Town, if you've ever heard of Old Town Canoes, and it's a great place to come.
Sure is.
He came up out of that grass and ate the Whopper Plopper.
Good job.
Yes, sir. You're gonna get the big one on the point, though. Hello, where you going? Looks like this is our pattern for the day, catching them in the top of the head like that. Let's see if I don't know what I'm gonna do with you, bruh. So Bob's throwing a Whopper Plopper also. His a little bigger, and man, that fish came up about 6 feet from the boat and hammered it. I mean, just hammered it. We got about 15 minutes before we have to leave. We're gonna try to catch 2 or 3 more. I'm gonna throw it there and get us a double. What you got, Smallie? Nice one, Bob.
Whacking.
Golly, look at how that fish tried to eat that thing.
Not a monster, but
these are smallmouth. You notice how much wider and thicker they are than a largemouth. That's because they live out in this current.
Go to see your mama.
Good job, brother.
Grow a little bit.
Attaboy. I think Bob's got the magic one now. It's the white one, and they are liking it. Were you way up there by that grass, Bob?
I threw it almost to the bank.
Almost to the bank, didn't you?
Come on, boys.
He's going where he wants to go, isn't he? Here he comes. Nice. Nice.
Not a monster, but a really nice one.
See if I can get us 2.
Flop
Oh,
it
it
down.
came off. That was the Bob Hill Easy Release.
I almost am kind of glad.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with these treble hooks.
You got the fun out of it.
But y'all got the good jumping and the initial hit.
There he is.
I told you.
Right there. I'm letting you catch the big ones. I'm catching the little ones. But it is some more fun seeing them come up on that thing. He's a little
Yes,
feisty.
sir.
There we go.
You like those.
That's what we want.
Catch and release,
Yes,
boys.
sir. We're going to teach y'all in our next show how to do that. Fight them all the way to the boat.
Uh-oh, I messed up.
And then let them get off. After a good evening of catching smallmouth, we ran out of light. So we came back out the next evening and decided to go a little further north to a place on the Penobscot River called Old Lemon. So we're still on the Penobscot River in Maine fishing for smallmouth bass, and we're late afternoon today. We've come up the river a little further than we've been, And we were hoping to come up here and catch some bigger ones because we typically do. We're still kind of looking for bigger ones. I'm throwing a little small jig with a crawl trailer, 1/4 ounce green pumpkin jig. Bob's throwing a spot remover, catching them with a crawl on it. He's a little bigger.
He's fighting good though,
Yeah,
I
they
tell
got
you.
down there in that current, didn't he? That's the cool thing about these fish. If you ever get a chance to come up here, a 10-inch or a 3-pounder, they all pull really good. So what I'm throwing is it's a Buckeye ball jig. It's balling. It's a new jig they
Not
got.
bad.
And we're fishing a little bit deeper. It's bright, sunny, and we're trying to catch them. Bob's throwing a topwater a little bit to see if they're hitting it yet. They don't seem to be, but that's a pretty good one, Bob.
Yeah, it is.
Little keeper.
That's a nice one. Get him.
I'm better not catching any at all, though.
It sure is. Better than nothing, for
I don't
sure.
know if y'all can see in the background, we've got big trees on the bank here. And what these big trees do is break the current. And these fish are just in there behind them. And they're not big ones, but they're still, look at all the bait they spit out right there. God, he's spitting it on me now. It may be crawfish, Bob. But he ate that dude, didn't he? Good job, bud. They're feisty, aren't they? Bob's catching like crazy. I just made a rookie mistake and threw my bait without opening the bail.
I let him run with it a little bit too long.
So you're throwing the spot remover with just the crawl, right?
Yeah.
And I'm throwing a little jig, green pumpkin. It doesn't really seem to matter as long as we get up there around where they are. So this little jig I'm throwing, it's a new balling jig from Buckeye. This is the 1/4 ounce version. Green pumpkin with a speed crawl on there. I dye the claws chartreuse. And I also, the weed guard usually sticks out a little further. I'll trim that weed guard till it's just right at the tip of the hook, and that way it gets in their mouths a little bit better. But that's the whole setup. 10-pound line on spinning tackle. Yep. Come on, big boy. If I can get him around here. There's so much stuff down in the water around here. You don't want him to get down in it.
Yeah, that's a pretty one.
That's a nice one right there, Bob. That's the kind we came up here for. He came on the jig. Come here, dude. Come here. Come here. Be nice. Be nice. Be nice. Golly. I got him. Man, that's about a 2.5, 3-pounder. Came on the little jig just right off the bank. We got on some of these deeper banks. But look how, golly, look how healthy he is. Thick and fat in that fast water. So this is the way we rigged this little jig. I got a speed crawl, I got my jig. First I'm gonna spray the claws, and I just spray them just a little bit on the tips. Both sides. And then I'm gonna just thread this thing on here. Now, the ribs need to be up like this. So I'm gonna start them upside down. I put it right, and it's real important that you stay in the middle of it. Bob got him one. I'm gonna come on up about 1.5 inches, push it all the way over the hook, the holder, and you need to make sure it's straight. And now we got us another fish. Good job, Mr. Bob.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The bite slowed just a little bit, so we decided to move down the river and fished in a place where I was throwing a topwater and Bob was throwing a Carolina rig. We just saw a bald eagle fly right over us, man. It's just beautiful to see. Bob, that's one of my favorite things about being here is, you know, in God's creation, you see him in everything, you know?
Sure do.
And we read about him today being personal with us. It's almost like he created this for for his pleasure and our pleasure, and we get to enjoy it, and we really need to appreciate it. And man, I certainly do. Anytime you see something like a big old smallmouth. Is it a good one?
I think so, it's decent.
And what we're doing, we're sitting in the mouth of a creek that comes into the river, and we're fishing deeper. And Bob's throwing a Carolina rig, and I'm throwing a jig. And he got him about a 2-pounder. Oh man, he threw off your thing too.
Got rid of my crawl.
He's not a real big one, but Bob threw out there with his Carolina rig and caught one. Now I got one on the jig. We're being a little greedy looking for that 3 or 4 or 5 pounder, aren't we? It just doesn't get a whole lot prettier than that right there, does it? So, come here, dude. Man, he got smaller when he came. I think the big one came off, Bob.
And the other one bit it.
The little one bit it, yeah.
He took off, he took over.
Man, they're just a beautiful fish.
Yeah, they are.
Beautiful place. Thank you, Lord, for that one. One of my favorite things about fishing for smallmouth on the Penobscot River is that we get to catch them on a variety of baits. We caught them this evening on a hard plastic topwater bait called a Whopper Plopper, and man, it was a blast. I also got to catch them on a new jig made by Buckeye Lures called a ball and out jig. It's a little ball head jig. And then we go to our old standby all the time up there, the Super Fluke, and we also catch them on the speed crawl on a spot remover jig head. And that's how we catch them on the Penobscot River, and we could probably even catch them on other lures. And that's fun. It's fun catching them on a lot of different kinds of baits. And you know, really that's our job as fishermen, is to fool those fish into thinking something fake is something real. To fool those fish into thinking something bad for them is something good for them. Actually, we're in the job of deceiving those fish into thinking something fake is something real. And you know, we're really in that same battle every day with a deceiver. The Bible calls him the great deceiver. It calls him the liar and the father of all lies. It also describes him as a lion seeking whom he may devour. It's the devil, it's our enemy. And what he tries to do with us is he tries to speak lies in our hearts and in our minds. And he's going to say things to us like, man, you're a terrible father, you're a terrible husband, you're a bad employee. He's going to tell you things like, nobody likes you. And the thing he kind of attacks me with all the time is, man, you're just not going to make it. How are you going to make it in this world? And so what we have to do as Christ followers is figure out where that voice is coming from and how to fight against it. Now, the way we can figure out where the voice is coming from is to measure it against a standard in the Bible called the fruits of the Spirit. You have the Holy Spirit living in you. He produces things like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And if what you're hearing in your head and your heart isn't producing those things, then it's from the enemy. If it's producing things like doubt, fear, anger, jealousy, then you know that that's coming from the enemy. And the way that we fight against that voice in our lives comes from the book of James. One short verse, chapter 4, verse 7 says this: submit yourselves to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. Now, what does submit mean? It means I'm going to give myself over completely to him. If I already have a relationship with him, it means that I give him every day of my life, and I know that that day is filtered through his hand, and I trust him with it. And I'm going to trust him that if I love him and he loves me, that whatever comes my way, I'm going to be okay. Submitting may also mean that you need to submit your life to Christ for the first time. And if you've never done that, it's just as simple as asking him to forgive you of your sins, ask him to come and live in your heart and be Lord of your life. That's how some of you guys might need to submit. And it says submit and then resist. The way I resist is I just ask God to help me stand against that voice that's coming into my head and my heart that I know is a lie. And then finally, if I'll submit and I resist, the promise from God's word is the devil will flee from me. And so if you're struggling with something the enemy's attacking you on, submit and resist, and he will flee, and that's God's promise to you. Hey, thanks so much for listening today. Hey guys, what we do at Go Fish Ministries is share the gospel and encourage believers in their walk with Christ. We do this through a variety of events such as wild game dinners, kids camps, men's events, music events, or even if you or someone you know just needs a day on the water. Go Fish Ministries wants to point you toward Jesus and help you know Him better. Contact us through our website. We'd love to serve you any way we can. God bless you and go fish. This is smallmouth bass right in the mouth of a little creek on a little Buckeye Lures jig with a Zoom speed crawl trailer. And we got the claws of the crawl dyed chartreuse with spike it dyed, so those are kind of the key combinations. And we have been catching a bunch of them, actually bigger than this, but we've caught a lot of them this size too this week. He don't want to come off. That's a smallmouth bass. That's about a pound, maybe a little less, a little more. And they call them brown bass up here. You can kind of see why. We're gonna let that one get big, Bob.
Yep.
Pretty good one too. Ooh,
that's what we were catching the other day. That's what we were
Look
catching
what
the
we
other day,
found.
boys. That's what I'm talking
come
about.
Right here, Alex.
That's what I'm talking about, son.
I don't know if y'all saw that. We fished that deep hole out there, and we caught several fish. And that we went on up in the creek a little bit, and it got darker, and I started throwing this topwater again. Have to give Alex the credit for this topwater bait. He put us onto it. It's called a Whopper Plopper. If you ask Bob, he'll call it a stopper, whopper, flopper, popper, but it's a Whopper Plopper.
And you can thank me for saying to
Watch
come
out
back
for your
here.
hands. He's gonna jump right there.
Oh, this has got the whopper. This got the hooks on it.
Yeah, I know. I don't want you to. Man, that's a big one right there. Cool. Look at.
That's what we were catching over here the other day, boys.
Look at the size of him. I'll get him, Bob. I'm gonna get him right under the belly. I don't want you to get them hooks, or you want to do it.
Hold on. Just let me. I actually could probably, if I can get his lip.
Can you get it? I don't think you can though.
It's in between.
Yeah, it's all.
But if I could get the in between.
That's about a 3 or 4 pounder. Be real careful.
Yeah, I'm fixing to cut this thing off and
let
put it
me
on my rod.
hands. Let me put my hand on that fish. Easy.
Beauty.
Can I hold?
You need to be on Facebook Live, boy.
Yeah, look at that.
Where are my scissors? I'm gonna cut this off and put it on mine.
Easy now. That was pretty. There was a little weed edge over here, and he's pretty good one. He's not as big as that last one. He's a pretty good one though. And that's still a nice one. They're way bigger than the ones we were catching out there in the mouth, aren't they? Golly. Come on now. Come on, brother. I don't know if y'all saw that fish. There's just a little weed line right here. Fish was all along here, man. That's a nice one too, dude.
We had to get off the channel, out of the river to get down back here where the good ones were, huh?
Now, is that typical, Bob? Aren't they normally out on the channel? Got one? Uh-huh, looky here.
Little one.
We got a little.
It's all right.
To be little bit.
Except that one's not little bitty.
So we came out to the mouth of this creek again, and I guess the fish just came in later. You think, Bob?
Maybe so.
They were in here earlier yesterday when you and your dad were up here. Today, they're later, and there's some nice ones in here, man. Nice ones.
Man, I thought he was one of them good ones. He ain't that good. Maybe it's the way he was hooked. Tiny Tim.
But they're right here on this current break. That's really important when you're smallmouth fishing, to find some kind of break, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah, it is. I told y'all they was some big ones that can now, y'all.
Man, did you see that? He annihilated it.
I don't think they're gonna hit this horny toad.
That was fun right there. Oh, that was fun. My goodness gracious, he careened it. This is a big old fish right here too, y'all. Big old fish. I'm gonna come right here, Bob. I don't wanna, here he comes, right? Come on, dude, jump right there. He did not wanna jump. Man, that's a big one. This may be the biggest one I've caught, y'all.
Nice.
Here he comes. Man. The Whopper Plopper was coming right across this point, had some grass on it, and it's right in the mouth of where these fish, we were catching them deeper earlier. And Bob told me there was some big ones in here, and all we could catch was the little ones. And I guess maybe later in the day, this bigger one just moved up in here and got on it. I mean, he got on it. Man, it's a big one. Golly. Come here, dude. Come here, dude. Let me see if I can give you a hug. Yep, that's the best way. Come here. Oh, look at that. How big is he, Bob? 4 and a half?
About 2 pounds.
Friends like you, man.
Let me turn him. Oh yeah, that's 4-pounder.
That's a 4-pounder.
This is a pretty good one too,
What you
boys.
got there, brother?
I got a decent
Yours
one.
got shoulders, doesn't it?
Not as quite as big as yours, but
I think he's running it close, isn't he? Now, what are you throwing, Bob?
Carolina rig with a Cinco.
We'll talk to y'all about a Cinco in a little bit. We're gonna let him get this big fat
I hope
boy
I
in.
get him in. Come here, baby. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me.
This right here, folks, is why we come to Maine. All of it's good, but this right here is the bonus. Hey folks, thanks so much for being with us this week on the Penobscot River. I want to thank my buddy Bob, man. He's put us on some good smallmouth. If you ever have a chance to come up to Greenbush, Maine and fish for them, it's an awesome place.
He's a monster. Monster.
They're just sitting out there in the...
He's a little one, just kidding. I knew he was a little one. He's about a
One thing we
pound.
found today too, and yesterday and the day before, is that last 30 minutes before dark, these things just, man, they get active. I get excited, I see him coming up, but he's catching them down there on a, are you throwing a Cinco or a crawl?
Cinco,
Yeah,
siete, nueve, diez. Last fish.
Last fish of the day. We're so glad you guys have been with us today on the Penobscot River. Awesome time with my buddy Bob, some friends up with us, and we're just glad that you came out to be with us and watch the show. Thanks so much. Join us next week.